Hello, welcome to Headline Makers on a huge day for Manchester United, who've announced Erik ten Hag will be their new manager. The Dutchman will arrive in the summer to take charge ahead of next season, and he says he's determined to bring success to the club. We're going to be live at Old Trafford for all the reaction to today's big news story, with insight from Manchester and the Netherlands as well. We'll also assess what Ten Hag's arrival will mean for the United players and the remainder of their Premier League season. All that on the way then in a busy hour as we mark the start of a new era. And the wonderful Natalie Guedra from ESPN Brazil is in the studio with us for Headline Makers today. Are you excited, Nat, to see Erik ten Hag in the Premier League next season?
Yeah, not as wonderful as Ten Hag, definitely, because I am very excited.
Well, they're hoping he's going to be wonderful, aren't they?
Yes. Well, there are a lot of question marks around him. What makes him so different from all the other appointments? How can he address some of Man United's problems? How deep are the problems? How different is he really? Because we haven't seen Ten Hag on a daily basis. We don't follow Ajax that much to know him in depth. So a lot of question marks here.
Yeah, let's bring in Ian Irving, who's live at Old Trafford for us, and Laurie Whitwell, the Manchester United correspondent from The Athletic. Ian, firstly, all the details of this deal for the United fans watching around the world.
Yeah, Manchester United announced it just after 11 a.m. local time this morning. It's a 3-year deal for Erik ten Hag. He arrives, of course, at the end of the season, not straight away because he's still got work to do over in Holland to complete the Eredivisie title. The 4 points clear in the race for that title with 5 matches remaining, but only 3 weeks. So basically his work starts here at Old Trafford in just 3 weeks' time. But yeah, in terms of this deal, he's the choice, it seems, for the club. In a statement earlier on, the football director John Murtough said that it was the attractive attacking football and also the commitment to youth that Ten Hag has shown during his managerial career, and particularly at Ajax, that attracted him to Manchester United. And Murtough added that he was deeply impressed with the long-term vision that Ten Hag has for returning Manchester United to the level that we want to be at, and also his drive and determination to achieve that. So it seems like those qualities initially are the things that stood out to Manchester United to put Ten Hag ahead of Mauricio Pochettino and the other contenders that there were as well.
Laurie, do you have any news in terms of who he might be bringing with him coaching staff-wise? Any former Manchester United faces?
I know what you're hinting there, Will. Steve McLaren's been mooted. We've done a piece on The Athletic just now talking about how Erik ten Hag has proposed him. They worked together at FC20 just before Steve McLaren won the title there, actually. And it sounds like they've got a really good relationship. So it's one that I think they're going to be having talks over. It could happen. They're currently talking about the exact makeup of the staff. I think United would quite like Erik ten Hag to have a look at who they've got there already and see if he can work with any of those guys. And Mitchell van der Gaag is assistant at Ajax. He's somebody that will be joining. They're in advanced talks to have him come to Old Trafford.
Ian, what about the reaction from those Manchester United supporters? Because it's hardly the biggest surprise, is it, that it is Ten Hag, and maybe the timing in terms of giving him a bit of time to get ready for the summer and for the new season and all that recruitment. But how has it gone down with the United faithful?
Yeah, fans seem pleased, to be honest, Will. I mean, looking at the reaction on social media and seeing sort of the initial response from Manchester United fans when this news was first sort of broken a week or so ago that Ten Hag was likely to be the choice for United, there was a positive reaction to it. Before that, there was a Twitter poll from Gary Neville where I think it was 82% of Manchester United fans who responded to that said that they preferred Ten Hag over Pochettino. He emerged as a popular choice, it seemed, amongst the fan base here. And I think that's because really there's a freshness to him. I mean, Nat spoke a moment ago about the idea that we've not really seen Ten Hag up close and personal working in a day-to-day role around the Premier League before. And of course, he's worked in Holland as well, where maybe the work's not as high profile to many football fans around the world as it might have been in Germany or Spain and those sort of places where we see managers arrive from as well. There's an idea that there's no damaged goods where Ten Hag is concerned. Someone like Pochettino, of course, we've seen him in the Premier League. We've seen the success that he enjoyed at Tottenham, but we also saw the way that it ended for him at White Hart Lane. We've seen over in France that it's not been absolutely perfect for him at PSG, even though he's got his hands on the Ligue 1 title this season, a failure this year, a perceived failure in the Champions League, where Ten Hag comes with a very different feeling around him. He's still with a chance of winning the Eredivisie this season. He lost the cup final at the weekend, but in each of his seasons that he's completed in Holland, he's won the title, and you get this idea that he's still in the ascendancy of his coaching and managerial career, whereas maybe the choices for Manchester United in recent times, that's not exactly been the case.
Well, there are a lot of question marks around what's going to happen at Man United, especially during the summer, because we've been hearing about players leaving, players staying. So I just wanted to ask Laurie if he knows, if he has a more clear idea of how the summer is going to go at Man United, or they are just waiting for Eric to officially arrive. How is the planning going, Laurie?
Yeah, I think they've had conversations about the squad and potential signings. Certainly, that was a major part of the interview process with all the managers, actually. And that's one of the compelling things that they found from Erik ten Hag, his long-term view, as John Murtough mentioned in his quotes, that he had a clear idea about what he would do with that squad. I think now his focus will actually turn to Ajax. He's obsessed, apparently, with winning the Dutch title again. And only then, at the point at which the season finishes in Holland, will he actually have proper recruitment meetings about who United want to sign. Listen, they're already developing, I suppose, talks with potential recruits, and I'm sure Ten Hag's aware of those talks, but it won't be the case that he's sort of sitting down with Steve Brown, who's the head of recruitment at Manchester United, and going through the different possibilities. He's obviously got clear ideas about who he'd keep and who he'd let leave. But to be honest, a lot of them are out of contracts, aren't they? So his hands are kind of tied on that. But I think that's kind of a good thing for him, having an opportunity to really revamp the squad. Although United's transfer business has been quite slow at times, so it'll be interesting to see how quick they are with a new manager in place.
Ian, I guess the big question as well is, what is different about this appointment compared to just bringing in a coach with pedigree like Mourinho, like Van Gaal, like Ralf Rangnick?
I guess what I just talked about a moment ago, the idea that we've not really seen Ten Hag in a high-profile position before in one of the big leagues in Europe. There's a freshness to that. His reputation is incredible over in Holland. Like I said a moment ago, he's delivered the double of the league title and the cup in Holland in each of his full seasons. And this year, of course, he lost the cup final at the weekend, but he's on for the title again. 3 titles it would be during his time after being appointed in December 2017. His reputation really high. We heard Pep Guardiola a couple of weeks ago speaking about him, because Ten Hag was the reserve team manager at Bayern Munich when Pep was the first team manager. And actually that term, first team manager, is quite a key part of United's statement earlier. There's no sense of Ten Hag being a head coach. He will be the manager of this football club, and of course that hints at the remit that he's going to have in terms of shaping the squad, rebuilding this side, and he's got a huge task on his hands to restore a sense of pride in this club. Forget winning the league title, challenging for the Premier League title for the moment. He needs to get Manchester United back to a level of competing, to ensure that some of the games and the performances and the bad days that they've had this season are a thing of the past, and build year on year towards something more like the level of Manchester City, more like the level of Liverpool. And they have a belief, it seems, the club, that Ten Hag can be the man to restore that. I spoke a moment ago about the words that John Murtough had about how much drive and determination Ten Hag had to return Manchester United to the level, about being impressed about his ideas and his vision for the club. But make no mistake, this is a huge task for him. And of course, working at Ajax and having success there is very different to doing that here at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he will be focusing, won't he, Nat, on getting Eredivisie title number 3 with Ajax over the line, because as Ian said there, it's tighter than it was certainly a few weeks ago. But he will also be looking at Manchester United's finish to the season. And because there's such a big difference. It's a game changer finishing 4th and finishing 5th.
Yes.
I know a lot of United fans I've seen on social media said they'd rather finish 8th and be out of the Europa Conference League so that he can have a full season to focus and to build again, because that's what they need to do.
Yes, exactly. There is still so much in stake for Man United. And with Erik ten Hag, we hear this attractive attacking football, these concepts. I've seen interviews of him saying that he likes his teams to attack with 11 players and defend with 11 players. But does Man United has this type of players? How big of a change will they need to get to this way of playing with Ten Hag? He likes his defenders to play in high lines, but the Man United's defense is not confident at all. How are you going to play with the high line? How are you going to make all these players press? Because we were expecting this to happen under Rangnick. So the way he will really put his ideas to Man United's team is very intriguing for me.
Yeah, and look, the players are all playing for their future at Old Trafford, aren't they? Let's hear from Fred, the Manchester United midfielder, who's been speaking today on the news that Erik ten Hag is the new United boss.
Cara, foi uma notícia muito boa, né? Acho que é grande treinador e no cenário mundial. Tenho certeza que ele vai vir para nos ajudar muito, para fazer grande trabalho. O que eu sei vendo os jogos do Ajax, né? Eu já assisti alguns jogos e é uma grande equipe, faz o time jogar legal. Mas espero que ele venha para nos ajudar a fazer grande trabalho aqui e possa conquistar muitos títulos.
Laurie, it's an intriguing time, isn't it, for the Manchester United players? Because, I mean, do you get the impression that Erik ten Hag is the kind of coach that they will buy into? And we talk about the futures of Ronaldo, Pogba, Lingard, Martial, Rashford. He will already know by now who he wants to keep.
You think so, yeah. He'll definitely have an idea. I do think he'd quite like to get to know them a bit better, see them face to face rather than just sort of go off what has been reported or what he's seen on sort of video replays, I suppose. But no, I think the difference with him in terms of the players buying into him is that, as Ian said earlier, he is in the ascendancy. He sort of feels like he's at the peak of his powers, whereas perhaps in the past, United have got managers that are over that point. And also he's very much a grass coach. He's on the training pitches, instructing the drills, stopping the drills if they're not to his liking, whereas Ralf Rangnick was sort of a bit removed from that. He was watching it, but it was Chris Armas that's been doing the coaching, and then before that, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wasn't really a manager that would be on the coaching side of things, day in, day out. It was Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna that led that situation. So I do feel like with this one, the players will get to know him very quickly. He'll be there in their faces, I suppose, every day. And that's what gives me a bit more confidence that this could be a success than previous managers.
Ian, I mean, I was talking to you in the office this week about this because obviously Ralf Rangnick's comments after the defeat at Anfield were quite sort of eyebrow raising in the sense that he said Manchester United are 6 years, very specific, but 6 years behind a club like Liverpool. Bearing in mind that's the time that Jurgen Klopp has been in charge at Anfield. They will surely need a quicker fix than that, won't they, to get anywhere near them?
I don't know, to be honest. I think there's a real sense this time around that he's going to need time, and that the level of expectation around this club is perhaps lower when some of the other managers have been appointed at Manchester United. Certainly when David Moyes was brought in, they were the champions of England. He was following on from Sir Alex Ferguson, and even Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho seem to have a higher basis to build from in terms of the structure and the mood around the team and the squad and the quality of it than maybe Erik ten Hag has at the minute. And I think as well the Manchester United fans have got more patience because it's been a really difficult season for the club. It's been a real season of low points for Manchester United fans. I mean, that was added to, of course, at Anfield the other night, an absolute disaster of a result and a performance for the team. And United fans watching that will have been completely demoralised by what looked like the difference between a Liverpool team and a Manchester United team. Of course, United finished above Liverpool in the Premier League last season. The start of this year, when Ronaldo, Sancho and Varane arrived, there was a real sense that United could even challenge for the title under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and that's changed. The expectation is very, very different. So I think United fans really will give Ten Hag more time. I think they understand now that there needs to be a different approach here, that short-termism of having to win titles straight away, having to challenge for the biggest trophies straight away is maybe for past managers, and this manager will be given an understanding that, yeah, there's still a level that they can't drop below, but for the time being, as long as they can see progress, they can see the vision that he's working towards, and they can see real improvement in results and the team and the reshaping of the squad, I think United fans will give him more time than maybe some of the others have had.
And Laurie, just the last one to you, and a couple wrapped into one. Obviously, Arsenal next for Manchester United, which is huge, isn't it, in the race for top four. What about Ralf Rangnick's future? I mean, is he going to be a consultant? How hands-on will he be at Old Trafford? Will he be there at all next year under Erik ten Hag? And in terms of recruitment, what sort of names in the frame are we looking at already? I mean, is the speculation beginning ahead of this summer transfer window now?
That felt like 3 in one, Will. I'll let you off that. I've remembered them all. Arsenal, it's crazy that United are even in contention for the top four at the moment. Although, having said that, you saw what Arsenal did at Stamford Bridge this week, and you kind of feel like if they play to the same levels as they have done in each their last matches, United and Arsenal, it's going to be one-way victory for them, and that should be top four gone. In terms of Ralf Rangnick, I think the way that the season's gone, the fact that he hasn't actually improved on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that has affected his power base in terms of whether he was going to have a kind of really purposeful role after the end of the season. The consultancy is there. It's 2 years. It's a contract that's been signed. I suppose the actual makeup of that depends on what happens after the season's gone. I can see a situation where he is someone that they consult with. They ask him to call an agent if he knows somebody or ask his opinion on a player. But I don't think he's going to be somebody that's kind of guiding the principles of the team for the foreseeable future. And then remind me of the last one. I said signings.
Yes.
The one name I could probably throw at you is just Darwin Núñez, striker for Benfica. He's had a really good season. United have had, I think, initial talks over a potential signing with him. I would expect some more to come, but there's a lot of clubs in the hunt for him. So, sort of the emergence of a first perhaps pursuit there. But striker is one position that they definitely need to strengthen.
Yeah, Newcastle in the mix for him as well with their big checkbook, Laurie. Thank you very much, Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic, Manchester United correspondent, and Ian Irving live outside Old Trafford. Right, after the break, we are going to be live in the Netherlands to find out a little bit more about Mr. Erik ten Hag and what makes the Dutchman tick on the day that it's announced he will be the Manchester United manager next season. Welcome back to Headline Makers. Natalie Gedra from ESPN Brazil in the studio with me. We're talking Erik ten Hag, aren't we? Let's go live to the Netherlands and speak to Marcel van der Kraft, who is a journalist who works for The Telegraph, just outside of Amsterdam. Marcel, welcome to Headline Makers. So I know you've been watching Ian and Laurie talking about the Manchester United angle. Tell us firstly what Erik ten Hag is like as a person, his strengths, his weaknesses, what makes the guy tick.
Well, Erik is a very down-to-earth guy. As a player, he was a grafter. He was a good, solid defender, and he made the most of his job as a professional footballer. Quite interesting, it was a job his mum and dad never wanted him to have because they said, look, we've got fine business here. We're in the financial world, in the property, in the estate agencies. Erik, there is a job for you here. His two brothers followed the advice of the mum and dad. And then there was Erik who says, no, thanks, Dad. I'd rather go into football. I carry on in football. And once my career is over, I will go into management. And his dad had several talks with him, trying to convince him not to do that dangerous, funny world of football. But Erik stuck to it. And that's maybe sums him up a little bit because he sticks to everything what he does, because everything what he has done so far in his career has been very, very good. He's been right with all his decisions. At Ajax, he walked into the job expecting to do well with his own ideas and philosophy. And yet, there was no guarantee. The best players were gone. He had to build up a team. He talked to his squad every day. And you see him here on the training pitch. And this is the place where the Man United players will probably think, oh my God, how many hours do we have to spend here? Because that's what the players at Ajax looked at. They were almost bored with the amount of talking he did on that pitch to try and make clear what his style would be and how they had to play. It was almost going back to the drawing board of tactics, back to the drawing board of ideas of attacking football, but it worked. It worked wonderful at Ajax.
Marcel, I think a lot of people are very curious to know more about his man management skills because we see this Man United team that lacks energy, that lacks personality. So what type of magic do you think Erik ten Hag will have to do to get something from these players? How is his relationship with the players usually?
He likes players with what he calls a little edge, and players who are difficult in his eyes are usually the best players. They come from either a difficult upbringing or they have been street footballers. He doesn't care. He loves those. And maybe with Hakim Ziyech, we have a fine example. Erik and Hakim Ziyech did not get on that well in the beginning. But in the end of the day, he brought the best out of Hakim Ziyech at Ajax. Ziyech was probably the best man with all his assists. He helped him develop that style of football which was super attacking in the Amsterdam Arena, and not just in the Netherlands, also in Europe, in the Champions League. He was brilliant with Ziyech in that team. And that was just one example because he had more of those characters. But that's what he likes. He says, let me work with them. Let me, show these guys that I believe in them and let them believe in my style as well, my style of football. the Dutch total football, often call it, because he's, at the end of the day, a fan of Johan Cruyff, Pep Guardiola, and I think that's what we're going to see there. But certainly, he will work with those players at Man United, and whether I think it's Harry Maguire or Cristiano Ronaldo or Luke Shaw, you name them, of course there will be changes, but he will not be afraid to go deep with those guys.
Marcel, is there an argument then to say that, a lot of those players from that team that you mentioned, the 2019 Champions League semi-final team, and we remember the game against Tottenham, it was so dramatic, wasn't it, with Pochettino, the Spurs boss. But is there an argument to say a lot of those players haven't actually kicked on when they've left Ajax? And that is credit to Ten Hag's coaching ability. I mean, you can see it even in more modern times right now. Sebastien Haller, who I think it's fair to say was a flop at West Ham. He scored 32 goals in 40 games. And I know the West Ham fans are rubbing their eyes when they look at those stats.
Well, you're spot on there, because this is what is amazing us as well. We can talk about the players who have left Ajax and who went on. Some of them did all right at Barcelona, Juventus, Matthijs de Ligt. But indeed, a number of them didn't, because they're suddenly in a totally different world. Look at Donny van der Beek. He looked lost. And I'm sure that Ten Hag is going to do, well, the first thing he will do is bring Donny van der Beek back and show Donny that he can play all right in England as long as it's in his format, in that fluid rotation kind of style, attacking football. And if we look at Ajax's team over the last 2 years, Erik ten Hag brought back probably 5 of those, I won't call them all flops, but players who never really made it as superstars in the Premier League. Daley Blind, Steven Berghuis at Watford, Martin Stekelenburg, Davy Klaassen at Everton, Sebastien Haller, as you just mentioned. 5 of those players, that's half of his team. And suddenly, that team can win trophies, they can play in the Champions League against Real Madrid with exactly the same players who could not do it in the Premier League. I think that indeed sums up what Erik ten Hag has been capable of so far in the Netherlands and in Europe. And that's confidence for him. It will take that confidence to Old Trafford. And at the same time, this is the Premier League. This is the place where he has to compete with the biggest managers, the biggest squads, the most financial, biggest, strongest clubs. And that is different from Holland.
And in terms of that reputation then in Holland, in the Netherlands, has there been any criticism for Erik ten Hag that he hasn't gone 5 out of 5? You know, in theory, he's about to get number 3 title Eredivisie over the line, although it is pretty tight at the top of that league with still some games to go. But, you know, are there those in Holland say, look, with Ajax's resources and a club like Ajax, he should have had 5 out of 5 during that time?
Well, and that is where it was a good thing that Manchester United have announced his signing for the club in the summer, because if this was carrying on any longer, I think there would have been more unrest. The last couple of weeks have been very exciting maybe for Erik ten Hag, but at the same time, very frustrating for the fans. Everybody wanted Erik to focus on his job, and he's the kind of guy who will focus on his job. He will give it all for Ajax till the last day. But nobody can deny that you have distractions. Of course, when Liverpool are playing Manchester United, I'm sure he was watching that game 90 minutes with eyes like this to think, what am I going to do here? What am I going to change here? And he will be keeping an eye on it all the time. And Ajax fans wanted to work for their club till the last minute. And the more it was going on about in the media about Erik ten Hag, yes or no to United, when is he going to sign? It was creating among his own players, his assistant coaches who knew nothing at Ajax, fans, everybody needed to know what the clarity was. And I think it's a good thing Man United gave that today.
Marcel, thank you so much for coming on. Some great insight there. That's Marcel van der Kraan, who works for De Telegraaf in the Netherlands, speaking to us live on Headline Makers. Just finally on Manchester United, because he's sometimes referred to as Little Pep, isn't he, Erik ten Hag? He worked with the Bayern Munich reserve team, the second team, while Pep was there, 13 to 15 under a hugely successful time. If you squint your eyes, they look a little bit similar, but the Manchester United fans will be hoping that you don't have to squint your eyes to see too many dissimilarities in that sense between the football that they're going to play.
Yeah,
he would have learned a lot there under Pep.
Absolutely. No, I think the comparisons are going to be inevitable, especially considering that they work together and they come from the Johan Cruyff school of football. But I think in a way maybe Ten Hag can be more flexible, especially with systems, because he usually plays in that 4-2-3-1, but he managed to build two different Ajax teams. The first one more free-flowing, and now working with Haller, with Sebastian Haller as a reference in attack. So it's very different the way Ajax attacks today compared to the team that made it to the semifinals of the Champions League. So he shows this flexibility, and he always talks about how much he looks at his players and tries to take the best out of the team based on the quality of the players he has, the characteristics of the players.
Yeah.
So when in Pep, I think he has more of a clear idea of a philosophy of football, and the players need to fit into this philosophy. So I think in a way it's going to be interesting, the comparisons.
Now that would really upset the West Ham fans if Haller comes back to the Premier League to Old Trafford and scores 40 goals. They wouldn't understand that one, would they? Right, let's move on, because away from Manchester United, there's an important Premier League game taking place later at Turf Moor as Burnley host Southampton. It's been a dramatic couple of weeks, hasn't it, for the home side, and their fight against relegation is far from over. Right, let's look ahead to this game by hearing from Mike Jackson, who remains in temporary charge at Turf Moor.
We've got what we have. What we've got to tap into is what we actually are. We've got to keep remembering that we can't come away and think all of a sudden we're something else. What's been good here, tap into it, use it from what we did the other day, show them qualities again and take them into the next game. You've got to try and see these as opportunities, these games now, not burdens. You've got to approach them like that, challenges, opportunities. Because that's what they are. You can have a go the other way and look at it and go, well, oof. Or you just take it on. This group's proven in the past they're willing to take stuff on. You've got to be able to do that. The game that you're playing, that's the world that you live in. So that's what we need to do now. Take this challenge on, bring all the qualities together that we've shown the other day. Can we get the consistency now? More consistency in the way we play.
Let's go live to Turf Moor, speak to Simon Crabtree. He's there ahead of this game against Southampton. Simon, this is massive, isn't it, for Burnley? A huge opportunity tonight.
Yes, it is. They need to start picking up wins and fast, don't they? The Norwich City game was a hammer blow. Obviously, the change of manager came off the back of not just that, but I think a general ambience around the football club. And it's all changed for the first time in a very long time. There's a home game here at Turf Moor, and Sean Dyche is not at the helm.
Yeah. Are the fans still lamenting the loss of Sean Dyche, as you say, first home game since he has been sacked? What do we expect the atmosphere to be like tonight? Because, I mean, it was cracking for the Everton game, but obviously Dyche was still in the dugout.
Yeah, well, having been here, I'm not going to tell you for how long it is that I've been coming to games at Turf. I don't want to give you any more ammunition, but they're always good here. It's always an intimidating atmosphere. Mike Jackson, who is the caretaker boss at the moment, came here with Preston North End a few years ago, and he was talking about it in the build-up to this game as well. He knows what the Burnley fans can make it like, the long side when it's bouncing. In fact, this entire ground still has the same sort of atmosphere, even though that they are all-seater stadiums now. I've not talked to every Burnley fan, obviously, but those that I have spoken to, a little bit of confusion as to exactly the timing of why Sean Dyche was relieved of his duties as manager. One or two, probably more than one or two, accepting that that maybe had come to the end of his tenure here. But it was just that timing of it, the gap between that Norwich City game and the actual departure of it, and the fact that there is nobody, it seems, lined up and ready to go and take over in that manager's role as well. But to answer your question, will they get behind Burnley? Of course they will. They always back their team here, quite ferociously at times as well. I am told, though, that there is a plan of a sign of support for Sean Dyche as well. There'll be a round of applause, potentially around the 10-minute mark, to say how many years he was at Burnley Football Club, just to sort of say thank you, I suppose, to what he did here. 2 promotions, European football, that 7th placed finish, hope that he gave them as well, a structure at Burnley Football Club from top to bottom in terms of the training ground at Gawthorpe as well. So he did plenty, mixed emotions, but the one thing that I can guarantee is that the Burnley fans, when that whistle blows, will give everything to support the 11 players who are out on the pitch, and indeed the managerial staff that are in charge tonight.
Yeah, Nat, that's the thing, isn't it? It's the timing, as Simon mentioned there, that was the most curious thing in this departure of Sean Dyche. And actually, like, you look at the table, they're still within touching distance, and you look at the candidates who are being tipped to come in and replace Dyche. If he was on the list, he'd be top of it.
Absolutely. And the timing is very curious, because you're going to get an interim manager. You're not going to get a new manager until the end of the season. How is the process of interviewing managers if you don't even know if you're staying at the Premier League or not? But they needed a change, according to them. They needed a change. I'm not sure if that was the best change that they could give, that they could do right now, or if it was the case of doing this late December, early January, because they would have a transfer window, but it's water under the bridge. And now this interim manager, now Mike Jackson and the coaching staff, they need to lift up the mood, because the truth is, the teams who are ahead of Burnley, they have more quality. They have more quality players. So how can Burnley close this gap? How can Burnley save themselves from relegation?
Yeah, and it's all shoulda, woulda, coulda, Simon, isn't it? But had Maxwell Cornet stuck that penalty in London at West Ham last week, and Everton not scored so late with Richarlison against Leicester last night, it would be even tighter. But there's still some roller coaster rides to come, you'd imagine.
Yeah, and that chance against Everton in that 3-2 game against them. Yeah, it does feel that there will be plenty of twists and turns. That goal last night that Richarlison scored, I was at the Manchester City game last night, but it came through on my phone in 92nd minute, and I knew exactly what the atmosphere would have been like at Goodison Park, because they'll have been down, they'll have been gutted, they'll have been trying to get them over the line, and then when he got that goal, they would have left there feeling like it was a winner. If he hadn't got that goal, the mood both here and there would have been very different, and that could have had a knock-on effect, given that Everton have got the Merseyside derby at the weekend, and who knows what Liverpool could do to them on Sunday, especially if they had lost that game. That 1 point could make all the difference, but in the mood it was absolutely massive. But it doesn't change what Burnley will have to do here. They know that they've got to win here tonight, and we've got to remember as well, like, we can't do a discredit for what Mike Jackson can potentially do here, because he's in charge of the team, and Natalie was saying about getting a lift. Now, it hasn't been entente cordiale for Burnley recently. It had been a bit moody, and Sean Dyche actually could have lifted. So you can imagine that some of the players that haven't been playing, he's gone, they're all lifted, and it does have a knock-on effect, whether you like it or not, and everybody else is going, right, he's gone now, we've got to rally together, we've got to do everything. Ben Mee, who actually has written the programme notes tonight, there's not a manager's one, he normally writes a column anyway in this programme, so he's effectively led the line tonight. Alan Pace has also written notes in there, and he would normally have stuff as well. But they've got that chance. Paul Jenkins, who's the academy director, all part of it. They know they've got to galvanise themselves now. I'm not entirely sure whether a new manager, a new face will come in between now and the end of this season, because it's hard to know what an outsider can do to lift them. We've heard potential for next season. We know that the current Middlesbrough manager is potentially one of those names in the frame. We've heard that Wayne Rooney is potentially, Chris Wilder is the Middlesbrough manager, of course, and Wayne Rooney is potentially those names in the frame as well. But look, it's all about the players. I know that they've also been galvanised in terms of what happened to Ashley Westwood at the weekend as well. I've spoken to him today as well, by the way, which is why I've got a cup of tea in my hand. He messaged me, it's National Tea Day as well. And the one thing about Ashley Westwood was that he always carries around a cup of tea, and it's things like that that will galvanise them all. His operation well, he's had pins in there as well. He's in good spirits, and it's things like that that will bring this lot together than ever. You mentioned in terms of Maxwell Cornet, he could do with a goal. That missed penalty wasn't great. I think he's got 1 in 12. Wout Weghorst, who we've just seen walk across the pitch as well, he could do with another goal to get him going. They're playing more of attacking formation in that. In fact, he's just walked past me there. They're playing more of an attacking formation in that game against West Ham. It almost got them 3 points. They will need that everything to go well for them tonight against the Southampton team that pulled a result out of the bag in their last match as well. So could be anything tonight. Genuinely could be anything.
Yeah, Simon, thank you very much. And look at that proof that the sun does shine and can shine in Burnley as well.
It's National Tea Day.
Yeah.
That's the big news.
Are you not celebrating?
No, I'm not. Oh, I'm so wrong.
Well, tell them all back in Brazil as well.
Yes,
let's
yes.
all celebrate.
I will spread the word, yes.
Let's hear, though, from Jack Cork, shall we, the Burnley midfielder, on what's been an eventful week on and off the field at Turf Moor, particularly with the departure of their long-serving manager.
I don't really know much about the situation, what's happened personally. I just know I came in on Wednesday and the manager was told he's leaving, called a meeting, said to us it was a shock to him as well. He was sad to go. Obviously shared a lot of good times with us, give a lot of people opportunities in one of the best leagues in the world, and a lot of people are grateful, and it's obviously a big change for the club at this moment. We've now got to look forward to the next person who comes in and try and sort of rebuild a new identity as a club. Ben's come in with Jacko and Jenky, and they're going to take it for the foreseeable future until they do make a decision. And we've got enough people in this in the group now to get results in this division, so we should be able to crack on and be able to do it.
Problem here, a real problem for Burnley, it seems. Westwood immediately was waving his arms for help.
I think it's Vlasic just looking at it and he's horrified.
It's not nice. Like, my family are really close with his, my kids are close with his, and you just think, like, what at his age and what's going to happen. But hopefully, from hearing what they've said, it shouldn't be too bad, fingers crossed, and better than what it looked like on the pitch originally.
Dark moments for Ashley Westwood.
I went and seen him for half an hour, him and his wife, and I think, yeah, it's just that original sort of emotion, I think, was difficult for his family and everyone around him. It's hard. I mean, the picture sticks in your mind, doesn't it, when someone's on the floor like that? It's a horrible thing to see. So, yeah, no, I wish him well for his recovery, and I hope it goes well.
It was a bad penalty by Max Cornet.
Finishing hasn't been there, but you can't really say that. Like, everyone's got a chip in. It's down to everyone to win the games, and unfortunately, we just haven't found that little touch this season. You know, if we've got the 2 home games now, there's 6 points to play for there. It puts us in a great position. It puts us on 30 points, and it's all about us winning, really. We've got to be the ones that make the points. We've got to be the one that get to 35 points. We can't look at the other teams. I know it's what everyone says, but we have to go out there. We have to start winning games, and if we don't, then we will go down. That's how it is. If we can aim for 35, that would be the aim. Sort of try and get 3 or 4 wins now, and that's what we'd have to aim for to stay up.
Thing that as well, they're only 4 points from safety. A win tonight, that would be a point. It's still doable, isn't it? It shouldn't all be doom and gloom at Turf Moor.
And their run is not the worst. They have a match against Watford that can be decisive. They have Villa home and away. They have Wolves. It's not the worst run. They have Spurs, that can be the trickiest one. But it's not a terrible run.
But you know what I'm going to ask you?
If they're
yes
going
or no? Staying up?
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, because not that I don't believe at Burnley, but I think I believe in Everton more.
And it'd be interesting to see what they do with the manager, whether they do appoint someone before the end of the season. Simon mentioned Chris Wilder there, but Joey Barton's name has been mentioned. Not Slavica Jokanovic, who else has been there? Slaven Bilic was the name I was thinking of as well. So, you know, they could act, couldn't they, before the season? What impact will that have as well? Right, after the break here on Headline Makers, we're going to be taking you to the Hall of Fame ceremony, because 6 legends have been inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame today, and we're going to be behind the scenes at the Shard in the capital. Welcome back to Headline Makers. So the Premier League's Hall of Fame has been boosted by 6 new inductees following a vote and selections from the Premier League Awards panel. 6 great players with plenty of memorable moments. So this year's inductees are being honoured at a special event in London later, and our man Jonathan Joseph is there early to have a little look around for us.
Hello and welcome to the Shard in London for the inaugural Premier League Hall of Fame inductee ceremony. Now, we are going to celebrate the great and the good of Premier League history here tonight. We're catching up with the guys that gave you the most joy, the most pleasure, and in the case of Vincent Kompany, the one that broke my heart the most. Their work in the Premier League is going to be immortalised tonight. Now I'm going to take you on a little tour of the venue, VIP style. This is where they're all going to come. They're going to walk down these stairs on arriving at the venue. And then we're going to walk into the main area of hospitality. We like to look after our guests, as you can see. Little bar over there where they can have some water. We've got a variety of milks, a little bit of lemonade, anything that catches their fancy. So as we go over here and past the latest 8 inductees into the Hall of Fame, later on we will be catching up with some of these guys who have made the journey into London. And as we continue around the venue and past the guys that are already in the Hall of Fame, over there, as you can see, everyone's still working. This is where Kelly Cates is going to host the main ceremony, catching up with our VIPs and the Premier League's chief executive as well. Now at the top I said we're at the Shard in London. I did it a little bit of a disservice, right? Because we know that London is known for its history and its great buildings, and even though the Shard doesn't have the history of some of the others, what it does have is the most amazing and spectacular view.
Been up the Shard, Nat? Lovely up there.
Yes, but I'm not fancy enough for this type of events. It's more of your scene.
You get vertigo going that high. It's beautiful
Yes.
up there. Some incredible legends being inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame. I mean, we've got to mention Peter Schmeichel,
Yeah.
if not, well, certainly one of the greatest ever goalkeepers to play in this league, if not the best.
Yes, and the impact he had on the position, on how goalkeepers behaved after him. He was a pioneer in many ways. He had such an impact in the way goalkeepers played with their feet and were more active in the build-up and were more influential to a team and to a great Man United team. So yes, definitely.
Yeah, Ian Wright, of course, won that title in 1997 under Arsene Wenger, 97-98 that season.
Yeah.
And of course, Vincent Kompany, the 6 names on there, just a reminder: Wright, Aguero, Drogba, Schmeichel, Scholes and Kompany, added to the 2 that we already inducted a few weeks ago. As for Sergio Aguero, that magical moment which no one will ever forget, and again at the beginning of Manchester City's success.
Almost impossible to replicate a moment like this. And as a South American, I'm especially proud to see Aguero at the Hall of Fame. But I think he's responsible for one of the most remarkable historical moments in the history of the Premier League, and it's more than fair that he's being inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, an amazing event tonight as well, and they're all going to be in their hotel rooms. It's a big moment for these guys, isn't it? You know, and for Sergio Aguero, he'll be having his eye, of course, on the title race as well, and a striker that potentially is about to be replaced in Erling Haaland at Manchester City. But what a player he was for City, not just in that first Premier League title win, but all the way up to the end, and could have gone on a couple of years. It was so sad, really, how it ended for him at Barcelona, wasn't it?
But the relationship that he created with Manchester City after that goal, and then he was just so faithful to the club for so many years, and he played such an important part in different aspects. And he wasn't like this big personality, this guy who gives interviews all the time, who's very into the media attention, but he was himself. He really drew an eye in the way that he played and the way he scored goals in so many ways. He scored with headers, even though he's not a tall player, and left foot, right foot. He's so versatile. It was
I remember
amazing.
his debut. I was there. It was against Swansea.
Really?
Remember, he came off the bench. Brendan Rodgers was the Swansea manager, and he scored 2 off the bench. And everyone thought, we'd already seen him, of course, at Atletico Madrid. But everyone thought this guy is going to be special. And to stay that long is just incredible, isn't it, for Manchester City fans? Right, of course, Manchester City very much in the box seat for the title. They beat Brighton by 3-0 last night to go back to the top of the table after Liverpool the night before went to the summit. Let's hear from the City boss Pep Guardiola on this title run.
Excellent for the minute one until there's a good rhythm. A team like him put incredible good results, and against Arsenal, Tottenham away, and we didn't concede a lot, and we were incredible, aggressive and positive. We show again ourselves, not the people ourselves, we're a decent team, and we know what you have to do. If we drop just 2 points, Liverpool will be champion, and if we win all games, we will be champion.
Nat, you were at the Chelsea-Arsenal game. That was a hell of a game last night. But in terms of City getting the job done, the pressure was on them. The first time that they'd been second in the table overnight since the 1st of October after Liverpool went to the summit. And they had to get 3 points, because anything less, it would have been, game on for Liverpool.
And I think the pressure was on them, not only because Liverpool played before and City was going to play after, but the way Liverpool's playing. There is a hype around Liverpool now. Even though Manchester City is top of the league, there's a hype around Liverpool, this energy, this confidence, the way they play, the way they win. So there's so much around Liverpool that sometimes we even forget that City is leading the title race, and they keep being consistent. Brighton was a pain for many teams lately, especially.
Well, the 2 last games, they went to North London, both sides, didn't they? And beat
exactly,
Tottenham and
Spurs and Arsenal, yes, and Manchester City, they dealt with Brighton so well.
Yeah. So momentum. Just listening to you speak there, do you think it's? I mean, obviously they've both got momentum, haven't they? Liverpool and Manchester City. I just wonder how much of an impact do you think that FA Cup semi-final defeat against Liverpool would have on these City players, or do they put that behind them and say, look, we're in the box seat here, and it would be a 4th Premier League title in 5 years for Pep Guardiola. You talk about dominance. That is how you start to dominate with those sort of numbers.
Yeah, no, I don't think this will have such a big impact, because this team looks so mature, especially emotionally and mentally. But I think if it was the Champions League, for example, I think in this case it could have an impact. And then we have to have an eye on the Real Madrid matches, because they're happening in the following 2 weeks. But in terms of impact, I think Liverpool has a tougher run compared to Manchester City. But Liverpool can build up on that as well.
Let's have a look at the run-ins. So, where do you think, Nat, that someone could slip up? I guess the beauty of that is that we just don't know, and there could be a slip up. Who knows? Both teams could win all their games, in which case Manchester City would be champions. Will it go to the final day? I mean, think about the narrative there. If it is to go to that last day, Manchester City against Steven Gerrard, Liverpool legend Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa, with Coutinho in the team as well.
Yes, exactly. Well, they're both playing at home in the final round. But if you look at the fixtures and you look how strong they are, it's really hard to see both in either Manchester City or Liverpool dropping points. But it's what Pep always says, the so-called easier fixtures are the trickiest ones.
Well, no one thought City were going to lose at home to Crystal Palace. You're going to be there on Saturday for the Watford game. I mean, can you see Watford causing City any problem?
Yeah, not so much. But if you look at Newcastle, for example, Leeds are having a good run after Jesse Marsch arrived. But especially Newcastle, I think Newcastle is very tricky. And West Ham, depending on how the rest of the season is going to go.
Wolves have been a bogey team to City over the years, haven't they?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And in Liverpool's case, they also have Newcastle. They have Spurs, and that's full of ups and downs. You never know. So, it's going to be interesting.
What about some big news coming out of the Etihad that the Manchester City captain Fernandinho is going to be leaving at the end of the season? The timing he announced, that was quite curious, wasn't it? Just before the FA Cup semi-final. But where do you think he will go at his in his twilight years? Can still do a job in the Premier League. His idea is to go back to Brazil, is it?
Yes, he's definitely going back to Brazil. And I think he's going to Atlético Paranaense, who's the club where he used to play in Brazil. He has a great relationship with the club, but I'm curious to see how much they will miss Fernandinho, not only on the pitch, but especially off the pitch. Because
he's played a huge role in what Rodri is doing now, isn't he?
Yes, exactly. But he's a leader, and not only that, he's a very influential figure inside the club. He's involved in many decisions. He's very important in welcoming new players, the young players. He always takes them under his wing. So he's very important in communicating between the coaching staff and the players. So he does that. He has a lot of responsibilities that people don't necessarily see. So I think in this sense, Man City will miss him.
And I remember when he signed for Manchester City, it was £28 million for a 28-year-old from Shakhtar Donetsk under Manuel Pellegrini. There were definitely eyebrows raised when when that deal got over the line. But what a player he has gone on to be for Man. And he's kind of not changed the role, because people could say Claude Makelele, but in terms of doing what Makelele did and having that aggressive physical side to his game, there's no one better over the last few years. I mean, some might say N'Golo Kanté, but
yes, but but they're very different. In a way, Fernandinho became a very different player from the player he was at Shakhtar Donetsk, and he became much more sophisticated, especially after Pep arrived. He always says that he wishes he got Pep when he was 20-something, because he would develop even more under Pep.
So there you go. You're going to be at the Etihad for City against Watford, and then you're off to the Merseyside derby. You've got a trip to the north of England planned for the weekend. Nat, great to see you.
Good to
That's
see
Natalie
you.
Gedra from ESPN Brazil. So the title race, well, will it take another turn this weekend? Manchester City top, but Liverpool will be hoping for a Watford win.